Hello and welcome to Dance Teachers Academy. I am your host, Jose on the mic, and with me as always is the lovely Amay. How are you doing?
I am great, Jose. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. This turnaround, we are actually in Bradenton, Florida, enjoying the weather. It's kind of warm out.
Good friends, Anna and Andrew Smart.
We have our guest today is Andrew and Anna Smart with World Promotions, Inc.
Yes, among other things.
Among other things, yeah. We're going to get into all of that.
Yeah.
How are you two doing?
We're doing great. We're so
good.
glad you guys could come down to Florida.
Thank you for
see us.
having us. I'm so excited to have you two on the podcast. I've known you two for a really long time, and we've enjoyed many parts of the world together.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. We've had a lot of international experiences.
That's
I would
right.
say.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
I didn't say international incidents.
That's right.
Well, there is an important thing there. There's an important distinction, yes.
But you two are really wonderful. You put on first-class events, treat everybody with such kindness. You have great character and integrity, and I really appreciate all that you have done. And yeah, so my first experience traveling with the two of you was Paris, Nice, Cannes, and Monte Carlo.
Yeah,
It was pretty special.
That was a decent trip.
Yeah,
That
it
was a decent
really
trip.
excellent.
I'm not gonna lie.
That sounds like a hell of a trip. Are you kidding? That's like a bucket list thing.
You know when they say like go to your happy place, try to imagine somewhere. I'm like easy. It's Ritz-Carlton Cannes. I was there. I opened up the French doors. I had the fruit on the table. I've been to my happy place before.
You must have been in my room. I had a room close
Wow.
I had my
we're
own
not
room,
gonna-
which is even better.
Yeah,
It's funny you should mention that though, because really, honestly, I feel like that's kind of our profession is giving people a happy place. You know, creating
Oh,
a
that's
happy
nice.
place for people,
Yeah.
and it really warms my heart to hear that somebody can go to one of those locations and think of that as their happy place.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of really, really nice feedback from people who say the same thing.
Wow.
Look, I'm just curious because world promotion. How many of these things do you put on a yearly
there.
basis?
Oh, my Lord. Me?
Yes,
Not very many.
The
not
two
sure.
of you. No, that would be
the two of you. Yes.
The company,
Both.
It ranges anywhere from 12 to 15. You know, it depends.
Wow, really?
We average one a month. Yeah.
I was gonna say
we
it.
have 10 that are every year. They're annual events. They happen every
Well,
year.
yeah, I think what most people don't know is we do 10 or 12 competitions that dance teachers and studios and students come to or travel with, but we also do half a dozen corporate events
Oh wow.
that
Yeah.
are private events that we do for corporate clients, Disney,
Gotcha.
and
Wow.
Nice. Well, so that's why we're here. I'm going to get you to brag about yourselves, and if you don't do that, I'll do it for you because I've been
Sure,
to many of
absolutely.
your events. Well, we decided to do something really fun today, which was kind of a she said, he said, because the two of you work together on these events, and you are, first of all, you're a man and you're a woman, so it's going to be a different
I
angle.
think they call
There
it.
is that. There is that.
And the personalities are different, but God has a sense of humor, and He puts opposites together. We know this.
Well, yeah.
Yes,
okay.
he does.
Okay.
So we're going to ladies first.
Okay.
Invite Anna to.
So I should be.
Okay. Yes.
We're just going to
I'm gonna
invite
ask
you to come
go
back.
To the
Sold.
soundproof booth in the back, if you don't mind,
Right.
sir.
Put the headphones on, listen to the music so you don't hear the answers.
La la la
I'll
la
grab the
la.
phone.
Oh, that would be fantastic if you grab the phones.
Okay, we're back. This time we are going to have a chance to speak with Andrew. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, I'm really liking your office. This is quite the digs.
Yeah, we bought this building a long time ago, and then we finally moved
You
in.
bought this building?
We bought the building like 15, 20 years ago, and then
Okay.
we finally moved in 10 years ago.
Okay.
Anna did the design, and
You did a lot of the work too, right?
yeah, we did some of the work ourselves, but we live more here than we do at the house, so
Try to make it,
Try
as
to
homey
make
as
it
possible.
livable,
Yes. You did a pretty good job.
thank you.
So what do you got going on these days?
Well, we're always busy. We've got World Promotions, of course, is our day-to-day busy company. We started a new company a couple of years ago called the Global Dance Alliance, where we're
I wanted to ask about that.
Okay.
it's a conglomeration. It's for you know, it's for independent dance studios that would like a support system. So the way we advertise it is, or we advertise, the way we market it is we tell them, you know, think of a computer, the GDA, the Global Dance Alliance, we're the Intel inside the computer, we're the chip. We're not the Dell, we're not the HP, we're not the Apple, we're not the Acer, we're the chip inside that helps you to
That's
run.
good.
That's actually
Yeah.
a pretty good
So-
description.
Yeah, so we've got back office support, we've got software that, you know, tracks students and does bookings and, you know, all the things that a software system should do.
And why did you start that?
Well, because my experience was there's a lot of people out there that own their own studios and are struggling. You know, they've got great intentions, they know the dance business, they're good dancers, but they didn't really know how to run a business. They went into the dance studio just as an option, but they don't understand employment, insurance. We've got lots of benefits for our members. And they would look at the franchise studios, the Fred Astaire and the Arthur Murray, the two big franchises in their own town, you know, doing 10 times the business they were, and they couldn't understand why. And we understand why, because Fred Astaire's and Arthur Murray's are great companies and
Yes.
give a lot of support to their dance studio owners, but a lot of people didn't want to be part of a franchise. They were independent for a reason, because they wanted to be independent. So we formed this association, a conglomeration of dance studio owners, and we got the
It's
top.
worldwide.
Yeah, we got the top studio in Denmark is with us, the top studio in Germany is with us.
Okay.
We had 3 or 4 studios in South Africa who actually decided that it wasn't for them. They actually ended up joining Fred Astaire, so we think we did a pretty good sales job on needing support systems, right? and I think they're doing okay. They're good people. So yeah, it's interesting. We've got 20, 30 studios here, coast to coast.
Well, you are great support for a lot of people, but you are often in the middle of great controversy. So,
Well, you can't make an omelet if you don't break some eggs. I mean, it's kind of the way it works.
and so I did want to title this podcast "The Politics of Dancing," and there is politics in dancing. So, I know Jose had a question for you.
I did do what is NDCA is what I wanted to find out about. I was trying to do some research before I got here. Didn't have the time, so I'm like, you know what? I'll just let Andrew
Well,
hash
You
that.
have
here's
some
the-
controversy with the NDCA.
I think here's the good thing. I don't think there'll be any new dance federations because there's no letters left. You know, WDSF, IDSF, WDC, WDCAL, NDCA. I mean, all the letters are gone, so we can't have any new ones.
It's one way to look at it.
I mean, here's no. I'm not going to form a new federation. Although, you know, we probably get a phone call a month, somebody calling me over unhappy with the structure and say you should form a new federation, and I have zero interest in that.
Gotcha.
So, and actually, you know, the NDCA has been around for a long time. I think there's probably some very good intentioned people in there.
Yes.
But you know, I always say that there are probably a group of good people that have been hijacked by a cartel of terrorists.
Wow,
That's controversial.
You
Yeah.
think so? I don't think so. I mean, you know, I think the NDCA is basically 3 or 4 people that.
There has been I am a member of the NDCA.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. And of course,
How's that going for you?
well, as you know, if you're going to compete,
There we go.
if you are going to compete at one of their competitions, you have to be a member.
And what do
So-
you think of that?
That's very interesting that you say that. You know, I don't think about it anymore because it really had been so much a part of what just happened. Some of the big competitions, the United States Championships, Emerald Ball, when I was, you know, competing professionally, and that was it. That was the rules. You had to become a member.
And do you think you get value for your money?
Well, I feel like it's insurance, and that
There we
it's
go.
in place there for in case there's a problem, and that's how it was.
So well, it's interesting because I know you're asking me, but you're really answering the questions. So you pay this insurance policy, and what are they going to do for you if you get sick? Do they give you money?
Well, not if you get sick, but my understanding is that.
Your understanding. Okay.
Oh my gosh! The two
The
of you are
interview
ganging
turned.
about. I know, right?
No, it didn't
But
turn, but you
so
see.
let me say this also too. If I have a student that wants to compete at an NDCA competition, I do have to be a member of the competition. So what I do, and I'm going
That
to answer
isn't
your
the question. The
that's
question
right.
is,
I'm
what do
going to
you
answer
get
your
for the
question.
money?
Yeah, I'm going to answer your question. So my first, and I know you have this heart too. My first responsibility is to do a competition that my students would like to do. Oh, by the way, that's why I'm at your competitions all the time, because one of my top competitors prefers your competition to any other competition. As a matter of fact, he's your biggest salesperson.
All right.
So I
There
feel
you
like
go.
there's some really good quality dancers and organizers in that organization.
There are,
It was-
absolutely.
yeah, and it's my
Absolutely.
understanding that if for some reason something happens with, let's say I won a top teacher check, and if something happened with that check from that organizer, the NDCA would back me and support me to get my funds.
Oh, that's interesting. So, if an
I
organizer in the
think.
NDCA, well, I'd like to see that in writing, because I didn't know that existed. If that exists, that's fantastic. If an organizer defaults on a payment, an NDCA organizer defaults on a payment, then the NDCA are responsible for that. Is that your understanding?
I believe so. Is my understanding. I could be wrong.
That's
I need to
interesting
read the fine
because
print.
that's it. I tell you why that's interesting, because I know 2 hotels that have been stiffed by NDCA organisers, and I'm sure they would love to know that there's a federation standing behind that
Wow.
contract.
Dun, dun, dun. Wow. Yeah.
Look,
well, you
it's
know a
like I
lot
said,
about
you know,
the inside.
but it's like I said, you know, I'm sure that the NDCA got great intentions. They've got
Yes.
great people, but I'm not too sure that as a body that they have a clear direction of what they're trying to do, other than perhaps protect their own business interests, which nobody can. You blame me for that. I mean, we're all trying to protect our own
Right.
business interests. My challenge with all of these federations is exactly the point that I was trying to drive you to.
Okay.
That I don't think they have a goal. I don't think they have a direction. And I think that as a national federation, your goal should be somehow to better the industry, which means we should be promoting to the general public more. We should be creating more students for dance studios or
Makes
for
sense.
teachers.
Sure.
We should be driving more people to dance more often at more competitions. Certainly, and Emma, you've known us for a long time.
Yes.
And have you ever heard us tell anybody not to go to a competition?
Never.
If you've told me, you know, I'm going to an NDCA competition in Dallas, I would tell you you must.
Yes.
If it's a local competition or a
Right.
competition your student wants to participate in, you have to go there. So I agree with you 100%. Whether you should pay a federation for the privilege of spending your money, I'm not too sure about that. That's a whole nother subject. Of course, NDCA organisers perhaps want to pay them because they feel they're getting some kind of protection or whatever. In fact, one time they did approach me, one of their officers approached me recently and said, "Don't you want our protection?" And I said, "Well, from who?" They said, "From us."
You're kidding.
I said, "No." I said, "That sounds a little bit like the mafia in New
Yeah, I
York
was
in
gonna say that's,
1943, right?" So I don't really want to be protected from you, no. So, I mean, I just find that that's an incredible attitude, that their business philosophy is, we believe in protectionism. And I believe that protectionism as a business philosophy doesn't work. I remember, and you guys may remember, when Toyota was going to come to America, and they were going to go open a factory in America, and the whole car workers in Detroit said, absolutely, we don't want these foreign companies. They're going to take jobs away from us, and they're going to destroy the car industry. And General Motors and Ford said, we don't want Toyota here, and they petitioned the government and they lobbied. And of course, eventually Toyota opened a plant here, several plants here.
Sure.
Today, Toyota employs more people than General Motors and Ford put together.
In America.
In America. They pay more taxes than General Motors and
Yes, they
Ford
do.
put together in America.
Wow.
So, you know, protectionism as a business philosophy doesn't work. So really, I think that's what it comes down to. I don't really have any feelings one way or the other about individuals in the NDCA, but I strongly disagree with their business philosophies of protectionism. I'm for growth and openness and expansionism, and what can we do, not what we can't do.
Okay, gotcha.
As a general concept in business, you know, I'm encouraging people. Even now, you know, you're starting these podcasts, and the first thing when you told us is, "That's great. Let's do it. Let's expand it. Let's get more people listening to about ballroom dancing and what's going on."
Sure.
So, you know, I want to encourage anybody to grow, not to be restricted. So, I think that's the challenge with the NDCA, is that we just have completely opposite opinions on how businesses should expand.
And you're talking so much about the business side of dancing. I think that's really interesting and very important for even a new dance instructor to just really be aware of the business side. And do you think that's a big challenge for a lot of the dancers or instructors out
And I
there?
think it's the only challenge.
Wow.
Because
okay.
I think if you weren't artistic or creative or didn't have some physical ability, you wouldn't even be attracted to being a ballroom dance teacher or performer or competitor or in the business. I mean, you have to have some right brain. You have to have an artistic bent to even be attracted to the industry.
That's true.
So they already have that desire covered.
Yes.
What they never think about is, oh, now I have to somehow monetize this so I can pay my bills.
Yes.
And a lot of artistic people don't necessarily want to be really rich or you know, that's probably not money's not the only thing in life, right? So a lot of people don't do it for the money. They do it because they love it and they want to do well with it. But sooner or later, you got to monetize it.
That's right.
You got to pay the bills.
That's right.
You got to
yeah.
pay the bills.
It's nice to dance, but
the
hey.
landlord doesn't really understand.
Yeah, he
And
doesn't
you have
understand.
to deal with a lot of personalities at the events. I mean, we're talking about some really big business ideas and on the world front, but I've seen you know, call yourself on the cell phone to an instructor that needs to be at the ballroom to provide the service for the student that's there. I mean, just very like
But
hands-on.
Don't you think all big problems are just an accumulation of little things? So,
Yes.
you know, you
Very
may
much
need
so.
an army of people, but you need to handle those little things. And I think that's probably something that sets World Promotions as an organizer apart, that some of these organizers, their event gets big and good for them, and then as a consequence, they become remote. So you go to
Right.
some competitions, the organizer's absent, and then the little problems get handled by
Someone else.
someone else.
Yeah.
But they never really get handled because
Right.
the someone else it's not their living.
That's right.
And so you know, there's I think that to be successful in big business, you have to look at every little problem.
Yes. And
Maybe
you-
micromanage, and you know, certainly you got to learn to delegate a little bit. But
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's really nice that you have that touch, you and Anna, where you are handling situations yourself, and that's why the instructors and the students absolutely adore the two of you, because they know that you'll be there for them. Yeah,
Well,
I've seen like students
they-
just
they-
absolutely.
Well, I think that's
so grateful to you.
another thing. You know, I want to stick on this politics of dancing
Yes.
a little bit, and
Okay,
I'm
let's
going
do
to
it.
drive every question a little bit that way.
Yes.
Please do.
Because I think people are fascinated by it. I think a lot of people don't know the history, and I think, you know, that's a good thing. My father had a great saying. He said, you know, it's really important when you're driving that you keep your eyes on the road ahead,
Yes.
but occasionally you've got to look in the rearview mirror. So if you don't know how we arrived at the situation we're in, it's awfully hard to fix the future, right? So
Right.
you've got to know the history a little bit too. And unfortunately, I know the history of the NDCA and the history of some of those people, and you know, they can't fool me about their importance when I know that they grew up just the same as all of us, struggling along and doing their thing. They just chose that direction.
Mm-hmm.
So the issue with the dance teachers is that all of them have an obligation to make money and be successful. Otherwise, they're going to provide unfulfilled services to their customers. So that's why it's a business. Because if we have a dance teacher in, you know, pick any city, Los Angeles, and they get a brand new client, and the client's really excited, and the client buys 10 or 20 dance lessons from them, and then the teacher spends the money and they can't service the lessons, and the student doesn't get what they paid for. It's bad for the business, it's bad for the teacher, it's bad for the student, it's bad for everybody. So
Sure.
they need to understand the business aspect of the dance business. You were lucky, Emma, because even though I'm sure you, not every day at the people you worked for was a joy, but you'd certainly learned a lot from those people.
I learned a lot from everybody, and I had more good than bad, and that's
Right.
where my heart is, and to pass that
Right,
along.
and you
for
started
sure.
with Fred Astaire, right?
It's so interesting. I actually started with Arthur Murray.
Oh, okay. Where
Okay.
was that?
It was in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Was
Was that with Terry?
not with Terry, so it was actually in Palos Verdes, which
Okay.
is as it's part of Los Angeles, but that's a very
Mhm.
big city. I don't even remember the owner of that, Arthur Murray, but this is exactly what happened. It's an interesting story. I've talked about it, but not on the podcast. Started with Arthur Murray, started in the training class, so excited about dancing. 15 people started in my training class. I was the only one left.
Right.
They still weren't going to hire me because I was terrible.
That's all right. The other 14 were worthless.
And they were trying to get rid of me, and I would show up anyway. So finally, they're like, she's gonna stick around. So that owner, and I don't remember his name. There was managers that he had just brought these managers in from Illinois. That owner had just sold a bunch of lessons to a lot of students, and then left town.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was not to say bad thing about Arthur Murray, because Arthur Murray, of course,
No,
is a
that's
great
just,
organization.
It's just a one-off
It was that
bad
particular.
apple.
It was a
One
bad
bad
apple,
apple, sure.
and see, it affects the business, like you said.
Right.
So then, from there, the
And it's lucky you stuck around,
Yes.
because that could have been the
'Cause we
experience that drove you out of the business, and we would have lost a great teacher.
Oh, thank you, but yeah, absolutely. My desire was there. I mean, we literally came to a locked door from the leasing office. Those managers loved the students. Saw something about the staff. They decided to go ahead and take it on themselves. So then, I was with them for 2 years, and then got an opportunity to be at Fred Astaire New Orleans, where I really got great training.
Which at that time was I think the
It
first
was-
or second top 2 or 3 schools
It was the
in
number
the
one.
organisation.
It was
right?
the number one Fred Astaire in
Yeah.
the nation at that
Yeah.
time,
And that's where we met.
Yes, that's where we met, and the training there was amazing. So most of my training there, most of the people were amazing, like Victoria Sanders, Lisa Owens.
Linda Dean was there.
Linda Dean had just left, but she came in to coach. One of my first couple weeks there coaching, it was, Forrest Vance was coming in to coach. Just a who's who of Andrew Smart, Martin Blaney.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What a great guy.
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah. And so you came in and do these great shows in New Orleans. That was wonderful because he would already have the music already prepared and cut. And then they would fit the dancers, the teacher and student, to the show, and then they would produce the whole
Well,
show.
you
It's
could
beautiful.
you could do that in a studio like that where they had probably 200 or 300 active students, and then it was like a
Yes.
casting call. You were casting for that song that
It's
was
so much
already part of
fun.
the show.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different in the smaller studios where they don't have the number of students to cast a
Yeah.
show like that.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It was just a different scenario. It was a big school, and
was a
the
big
training
school.
was fantastic.
The training was amazing. Yeah, every day we had training. So
That-
that was.
that's
So,
one
and I wish they had more of that. Yeah, and this
Well, that's
is,
what we're doing with the GDA. You know, we-
Global Dance Alliance.
Right.
Yeah, because there are teachers out there right now, which I don't approve of this. And I think really good instructors and really great people in the dance business will understand why, are out there teaching without knowing both the man's and ladies' part.
Well,
And that's just-
I think it's worse than that, Emma. I think it's worse or better than that. I mean, it depends how you look at it. I mean, here's the
It's
problem.
true.
You got a lot of. First of all, one of the things, and this is one of my core things with federations, that the federations. There are a lot of teaching organisations in the world. The Imperial Society in
Right,
London, I
yes.
think, is the oldest.
Yes.
The IDTA, then the National came here. Then there's some others here in the United States. Wayne started DeVita a number of years ago, and the goal presumably was to improve the quality of teachers,
Yes.
to give them a foundation. But there's still no regulation
That's
that
true.
dance teachers have to be qualified. I mean, you have to get a license in every city that I know of to be a hairdresser.
That's right.
A hairdresser, right? Well, the worst thing you could probably do is make somebody's hair the wrong colour or cut it too short. To be a dance teacher where you're dealing with people's physical and mental well-being, you don't need any license. So I personally think that should be one of the goals of these federations. You know, NDCA, USA Dance, I don't know how many of them there are.
Or get them
but,
certified
whatever
to some degree.
letters there are, should be petitioning the government and the Department of Education, and should be working to create a national standard for dance teachers. And I'm talking about grassroots teachers. Of course, teachers come from Eastern Europe and they're very good dancers already, and they assume because they're a good dancer they're a good teacher, which of course is not necessarily,
Not
true.
necessarily true,
Or
for
they may
sure.
be highly specialized in one style, like international Latin or international ballroom, and the next thing they're thrown in teaching theatrical or American rhythm or
Right.
American smooth, and they really don't know anything about this. I mean, this is even true in the judging standards. You know, you have a qualification for judging, and I mean, I would love to see a lot of these judges who are experts or champions in one style dance in another.
Yes, and you are a world champion.
I was.
Yes.
I don't like to talk about all that.
Yes,
That's
but-
the water under the bridge.
But you know about the dance,
Yeah.
the dancing, and I think at that time we had to know
everything, right?
all the stuff.
And when I came here, and actually my first experience in the United States, of course, was performing and, you know, going to competitions, do shows and lectures and training. But my first job here was at a Fred Astaire studio in Texas. And I remember the owner telling me day one, you know, you're a good
About-
dancer at international style. The first thing you need to do is learn American and get qualified. So I had to spend 6 months like a trainee, like a beginner, with the other trainees in that studio until I got past the Fred Astaire American style exams through gold.
yeah.
And
yeah.
American style rhythm and smooth. And it was like not even a question for him. I wasn't qualified despite the fact I was a world champion dancer and thought I was great. It wasn't a question for him that I could teach anybody properly until I'd...
And how did you feel about that when he said you had?
I thought it was great, actually. I thought it was
Okay.
great. I didn't like the arrangement because he was a little bit more astute at business than I was back then. So he said that he would train me, he would have his dance director train me in American style for free. And all I had to do was coach all their students in international for free. So it wasn't such a great
Wow.
arrangement.
Somebody
And
not a
got
good
a better
trade.
end of that deal.
but you know, it was a great learning curve, and it made me value American style, and actually it's a little bit annoying to me that so many European dancers come here today and poo-poo on the American style, but they're happy to be in America, right?
Yes.
And our business is built on American style, so I do think that international style gives you great training, and it's perhaps a little bit, you know, very strongly disciplined, and there's so many less steps, so your technique's much stronger. But American style's got so much going for it, and
It really does.
I absolutely spend a lot of my efforts with those people explaining why they're absolutely wrong, and that American style is certainly as beneficial as international style. And in fact, it's interesting because with the GDA, our schools in Denmark and Germany are teaching 100% American style to all of
Really?
their social dancers.
Oh
yeah.
wow.
There you
Okay.
go.
So they think it's actually a better style to teach to
Interesting.
social dancers, certainly
Yeah.
in the beginning when they want to feel, you know, that they're moving, or a husband can lead his wife a little bit easier, or whatever the situation is.
Okay.
Yeah, and all the styles are great, but the thing that American style does have as an advantage, in especially for social dancers, is that the man's and ladies' part mirror each other.
Right.
Especially with, let's say, cha-cha and
Right.
rumba, whereas in an international style, it doesn't do that. That's a great style, and of course you can do it socially, but when you have people that come in
No,
and they
it's
have...
hard. It's hard to do international style socially. I mean, you need a big floor. I mean, not very many social dance halls
Yeah.
have very big floors, right?
But I definitely think that's one of the big advantages, don't you? About just it mirrors.
Absolutely.
You mirror each other.
I think that I think that just the important thing in the beginning is to impart the joy of dancing,
Yes.
and I think it's easier to do that when the man and lady are joined together, or the couples joined together, and you know, certainly I respect greatly the great teachers in American style as much as international style, and I agree with you that it is sad that some of these dancers or teachers stick to one style, don't respect the other styles, don't go out of their way to learn the other styles. I mean, this is another complaint of mine, of course, with the federations, that there's no ongoing training. I'd like to say to these people that have been judging for 20 years, well, you were a great dancer and you were obviously highly qualified. When did you last take a lesson?
That's interesting you said that, because some of the people we've had on the podcast, they have been competing and training and now they're judging, and they still take lessons because they want to be current.
So do we. So do I.
Yeah. When
So
was
do
your
I.
last lesson?
2 weeks ago.
Cool.
Oh, there you go. You
Isn't
just
it
got
fun to
called.
be the student?
It's fun to learn something new, and actually what I like learning is how they teach. As much as the
interesting.
knowledge,
Sure.
and there's always new knowledge, I love seeing how they teach, and certainly the style and the technique of teaching is changing,
Okay.
definitely.
How?
I would say that it's more of a communication than a dictatorship. The
Yes.
old coaches, I think, used to say, this is the way it is, and you're going to do it like this. And today, a coach will ask the question, how does that feel? What do you think about this? Do you like so-and-so? Should we try it like this? It's more of a question and answer situation.
Sure.
Instead
Try to
of, it's
figure out
my
how
way.
to best teach
Yeah, of course,
that
it
person.
depends. It depends on the level of the student, of course.
Yeah.
But
Still, it's like that you're getting some feedback.
so as a general concept, the frustrating things for me about the dance business are it's not growing, it's not moving, and that drive has to come from the top, not from the bottom. So, we're constantly training. The GDA, we have a monthly video training. We have 4 live trainings a year. We just had one actually last week in Indianapolis, and it's real teacher training. I mean, real teacher training, receptionist training, front desk training, back office training, how to talk to people training, psychology training. We're bringing in guys that are talking about
stuff.
brand new things that are growing in the public schools, of the psychology of the student. If you don't understand the psychology of a child, you can't teach it. Not all children are the same.
True.
These are new techniques in just teaching in general, and we as teachers need to learn that.
Yes.
So you're right that teachers focus on their dancing, and they're convinced if they become a good dancer, they'll make a lot of money. But there's so much more to learn to be a good teacher.
Sure.
If you
And if you want to be a professional dancer, you have to be able to teach. They go hand in hand.
I
So
like that.
yeah, because even when you are, let's say, aiming for the world championship, you are training along the way. People want to know about your style, how you do what you do. So there's always teaching involved with a dance career, don't you agree?
Yeah, I do.
So you do have to be a good teacher.
I think you do. I think you have to learn how to teach. You have to learn how to communicate with
Yes.
people, and I think that's part of performing or competing as well, of course. But I also think that all of these dancers, these high-level dancers, should be given beginners.
Wow.
I mean, so many of these
That
people,
would be like-
they're
Raw
world
lumps of
champions or
clay.
the United States champions, and they say, yeah, I don't teach beginners, or I don't teach wedding couples. Well, then you can't teach. Because really, the greatest teacher is the one that can teach the guy on the street with 2 left feet.
Right.
And I love them because they take longer to learn. So my favourite students.
You have ulterior motives.
Yeah, they're my favourite students. They're
Yeah,
going to
there
definitely be
is.
with us longer.
I have colleagues that say, "Oh, I don't take wedding lessons."
Yeah,
and
I don't teach beginners.
teach so many wedding lessons, and it is blowing up the wedding business and wedding lessons, and with the all the dance shows now, so it's so popular.
Well, here's the other interesting thing, of course, is that, going back, I'm going to keep turning this
Yes,
conversation back
please.
into the controversy of the federations. Years ago, the direction that a dancer could take was quite limited.
It's
I mean, what Anna and I did is quite unusual. We came, we did the usual thing, performed. She taught for a chain studio. I coached. I bought a franchise with a chain studio, and later sold that. Started organising events, built World Promotions because we saw a market need for that company. And I think that market need still exists, by the way, even though everybody else thinks it's saturated. I think it's underpopulated with quality, overpopulated but not with quality. So, so interesting, right?
For dance events, for competitions.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, there's hundreds of them now, and there'll probably be thousands of them. I mean, they're not going to stop growing; they're going to keep growing. But that doesn't mean, you know,
The quality's there.
the quality is there, right?
It's watered
There's hundreds
down.
of computer companies, but there's only one Apple, right? There's only one
That's right.
Microsoft.
That's right. That's
So
right.
there's hundreds of competitors, and the market's limitless for people that are going to buy laptops, but they're not scratching Apple's business.
True.
And I lost my train of thought now.
Still banging away at the federations.
No.
And the
Well,
table.
And the table.
I don't like that. I don't like to think that I'm banging away at them. What I'd like to do is hopefully enough people will hear this that they will agree that you know we
Well, so-
need to try to convince them. It may be hard because sometimes you know it's hard to teach old dogs new tricks.
Yeah,
right?
something like that.
But some enough people can convince these federations that they're focused on the wrong things instead of control and protectionism and suppression. We need to open them up to some young ideas. You know,
And it is
they need a
important
board of
to-
young, dynamic people
Oh, yeah.
that
It's
can see
important
the
to get
future.
some new.
You know, Nick Kosovich. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
Nick Kosovich, you know, he called me because he just wanted to make a run and try to become an officer of the NDCA. Of course, I think everybody felt from the beginning, you know, he had no hope. But I do respect him for trying. At least it's time for some new blood. And, you know, he's a younger guy. I don't know, you know, mentally whether he had a plan or not. I couldn't really figure that out. I talked to him a few times. Couldn't really get much of a plan from him. But other than hearing he had a plan, but it wasn't really very lucid on what that plan was to me.
Sounds like our president.
But and I'm controversial, right?
This is politics. Oh,
This is,
dancing.
this is the politics of dancing.
Well, you know, that's really the saddest thing, actually, Emma, is when you introduce a podcast or you want to talk to me about the politics of dancing, that subject shouldn't even exist. You know, the business of the dance business should exist.
Yes.
But the fact that we have to say there's politics, and I'm not talking about this stupidity of judging politics. I mean, to me, this is just so trite. It's ridiculous that people have to take lessons from a certain person, so that person marks them in a dance competition is just beyond the joke. You know, that's just stupid. And I don't know who I feel more sorry for in that situation, the couple that has to spend their hard-earned money to take the lesson to buy the mark, or the person that has to sell the mark to stay in business. You know, the whole thing is just so ridiculous. It's not even a discussion. It's just horrible, and clearly there's no future growth if that situation remains. I mean, that's just silly, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
And they don't think it's silly. Of course, the people that set that system up, because they're the ones that set the system up and are running it, so they don't think it's silly. But everybody else looking at it from the outside is astounded. Jose, you came from a non-dance background, right?
That's correct.
So if I tell you, hey, listen, there's dance competitions and the people win money, so it's a professional sort of character, and if they win, they can do really well. But the people that judge are also the people that train them. You know, you'd look at that and say, well, that's a
Double-
goofy system.
Yeah,
right?
it is kind of a goofy system.
Right.
Like,
It'd be
wait a
like
minute, because then they're just going to be picking up on their kids. It's like, oh yeah, they dance better than you do.
Yeah.
How do you know? Because I trained them.
Yeah. Well, so even an outsider can see that that's just got no future there, and it's been like that.
Isn't
for
that conflict
years.
of interest? It's
Yeah.
a complete conflict.
Right. So that politics is what people call the politics of dancing, and you know, to me that's just so ridiculous. It's beyond stupidity that system exists, and unfortunately the federation won't fix it because the federation created it.
Yeah, why vote yourself out of a job?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, that's the other problem with the NDCA. You want to come back to the NDCA? That's the other problem. You pay this subscription, right?
Yes.
So that's a tax, basically. I mean, you basically said you don't get very much for your money, in as many words. Right? You get the right to pay them. That's what you said you get.
Sure.
You pay them for the right to pay them to attend their events, right? But can you vote?
No.
No. So that's taxation without representation. So that's a problem for me. I just don't believe in that system. You know, I was a member of the NDCA for a number of years as well, and at that time you could vote. So, you know, when they took that away and said, you know, members have to pay a registrant fee, and you're not a member, you're a registrant, and just pay us but you can't vote or attend a meeting or even get the minutes to a meeting or know what's going on. I mean, you know, I have no interest in that system.
Yeah, what that isn't the system.
Well,
That's that's a dictatorship.
It's bizarre.
Is what it is. Yes.
It's bizarre. So it's bizarre, and they don't think it's bizarre. And
Again,
you know,
they're not going to vote themselves
They
out
don't
of a
like
job.
it that you question that.
I don't question it.
You
I
just
don't question it. I just don't want to be part of that. I
Gotcha.
don't want to play that game.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
So,
I
so
see that.
for me, it's just an issue that I don't understand why I would have to play it. And of course, I'd be more than happy to discuss with Anna about World Promotions events being NDCA registered if I could get a list of benefits. I mean, if I'm marketing something, I have to tell you what I'm selling you and what you're going to
True.
get for your money.
Sure.
True.
Tell me what I'm going to get for my money, and you know, we'll certainly consider that business proposition. But I mean, I've yet to see that proposition. So,
Yeah, you're paying for a black box. You have no idea what's in it.
well, they say, you know, I think one of the things they say is we get their protectionism from themselves. we get the right to use their judges, but they don't have any judges. They only have judges who chose to pay them to be part of them.
That's
they don't
true.
qualify judges per se. I don't
I
think
think
they
they do qualify them now. Yeah.
Oh, they do? They have an
to-
exam?
They have to be a part of had a judging exam, I believe, with the ISTD. Or
Yeah,
the
but that's
Imperial
not them.
Society. Well,
Because
that's
I
true.
have a judging exam with those people, so, and I mean, I can.
You're
I
bringing
can,
up some excellent points.
yeah, I mean, I can be a
Andrew.
judge, qualified judge with one of the highly credible teaching associations, and I'm a judge. I mean, I'm qualified, but now I can't judge a certain range of events that belong to the federation unless I pay them. So I have to pay to learn to judge, but I can't judge anything. So of course, all the judges we use are qualified.
Very much so.
Of course,
Yeah. Very
or
much
world
so.
champions, or you know.
Yeah.
So I don't. I mean, I just think the system is dysfunctional somehow, and ignored. Ignored. I mean, it seems I get.
It seems like it's well. And again, I'm looking from the outside, and I have no clue what's really going on. But it looks like it's
Well,
just
if
a
you have no
status
clue
quo.
what's going on, you're on the inside because nothing anybody has a clue what's going on.
Oh.
You're join the club.
Yeah, join the club. Okay, yeah. I'm in it with everybody else. No,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
looks like it's just status quo. It's like, well, why aren't we
It
changing
is,
it?
and of course most
Because
teachers
it's just,
they just
this
want
is
to
how
make-
we did it, 50 years ago.
No,
And
it's
so, yeah,
actually
whatever.
it's actually even worse because 50 years ago there were more opportunities. 50 years ago it was still a growing business. Today it's a static business. You know, it's not really growing exponentially like it was 50 years ago. So 50 years ago, somebody like me, for example, wasn't 50 years ago, but somebody like me was a champion dancer. My coach or my coaches, when I turned professional, would say, "Oh, you know what? Why don't you go to Belgium to teach? I've got some friends in Belgium looking for somebody to teach, or Germany." So they would give you work. They would give the up-and-coming professionals work. Today, none of those judges are giving up any of their work or any of their judging jobs to the young people coming up. So where do they go? These kids, you know, study their whole life to become a champion dancer, and they spend a lot of money because they have to buy the marks, or because they're going to a coach that's, you know, that they believe in. It not necessarily
Quality
to buy the marks, but they're
choreography.
going to the coaches they like, or they're buying a mark, or both, at the same coach sometimes. So that's okay. But they're in that box. They're in that really dysfunctional, difficult system. But eventually they win for whatever reason. So now they've spent 20 years trying to win, and now they win. Now what? Nobody's given them work. There is no coaching work where they can travel around and make the big money they were promised, but it's not there. Truly, it's not there. And so what do? Well, they start a dressmaking company, or they open a dance school, but they don't really know what they're doing. That's why the GDA exists.
Okay.
Or they join a franchise, Fred Astaire's or Arthur Murray's, and use their systems, which will help them to become successful, I think, hopefully.
Right.
Or they become an independent dance teacher, but don't really know. One of the problems with independent dance teachers is how do you get students?
Right.
You know, they don't understand how to market themselves or where to advertise or how much they should spend on advertising and marketing
Right.
to get a student body and to develop a student body. And then they have a problem. It's only so many hours in a week. So what if they get too many students? What do? They don't understand that, advertising's finite. You can over-market and now you can't deliver the services because you're too busy. You're too
Right,
booked.
right.
So now you can't process the new student, what we call process the new student,
Yes.
and they're in trouble. Or the new trick, buy a competition.
The new trick.
The new trick, buy a competition. So now we've got a bunch of these champions who bought a competition and were promised, because by the seller of the competition or the thesis in the business, that because they were a champion, everybody knows them and their competition will be successful. Well, I mean, we know how that's going for most of them. You know, we see the numbers and most of them are limping along, trying to make a living or having to go to one of their students to sponsor the competition so it becomes profitable, which is really sad. That's not much of a business plan.
Well, and it's really hard because sometimes that person that sponsors has a real love for dance, but doesn't really want to be bothered with the business side of it. It kind of takes the fun out of it. Not for
It
all.
can take the
not
fun
for
out
all.
of it, or they can sponsor and suddenly they're top student. So now we have another dysfunctional system where we've got students winning student prizes because they sponsor it and they're top student, top bronze, top this, and they may deserve it. Or maybe it's because they're the sponsor and their teacher's running the competition,
Wow.
right? And now we've got a problem when your student goes and he can't win. Right? So now we've got another dysfunctional system developing. So, I see all of these things, just mushrooming, and that's what I said. We're not really, we're obviously aware of our competition and we watch it carefully, but we're not over-bothered because we believe there's still lots of room for quality events that don't deal with any of that.
Right.
We don't deal with any of that dysfunctional stuff. Our ethics won't allow us to get involved with that.
That's right.
That's outstanding. It seems like we can sit here and talk about this all day, but I'm running
right.
out of tape.
we
that,
are?
Yes.
And we want to
We're
invite
gonna,
Anna back.
we want to
There
invite
was one
Miss
last-
Anna back.
Yes, there was something that she wanted
She
to
had,
talk
Well,
about.
you're gonna
stop her working.
She can work later. And the star. There
And
was something
the
that you
star is
wanted
back.
to talk about
I don't remember.
an award.
Oh, we were talking about the nonprofit, the foundation, our youth program. We actually received an award last year. We received the Jefferson Award for Public Service for the work that we do in the public schools,
Oh,
which was a really
nice.
nice thing. And also, Andrew's had awards too. I know we talked about my award, but he actually received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the British Dancers Federation for his
Wow.
grassroots.
Same thing.
Educating.
It's not in my business repertoire to talk about the past. That's my big criticism of everybody else. So I don't want to talk about
But
the past.
congratulations.
Tomorrow.
Well,
I want to talk
congratulations.
about tomorrow. How are we moving forward as an industry, as a
That
business?
is really good.
Yeah.
That is really good. But it is really nice. My mother always said you should applaud your successes.
Yeah, occasionally glance in the rearview mirror. Right? Let's
see?
focus on the
Yeah,
road
there you
ahead.
Let's do it.
Yeah, you never know who's
should.
going to keep up on you.
And it was really nice to focus on the road ahead with the two of you. Thank you so much for being
Yeah, that was
here
actually pretty good.
on Dance Teachers Academy podcast.
Of course, of course. Did we get our diploma?
Well, actually, you'll get something
An
here.
award.
Yeah, you will.
Wow.
All right.
Fantastic.
With
we'll put
that,
it in our trophy room.
With that, I'm going to go ahead and thank you both for being on our show.
Thank you guys for
It was,
coming.
was wonderful.
All the way to Florida.
Yeah.
Yes.
And lovely MA, thank you.
Yes, amazing MA.
It's amazing,
Signing
MA,
out.
it's always lovely to see you.
Always great to see you.
All right.
You're our favourite. Was that live?
That's on tape.
It's on tape now. All right, folks, thank you. This has been another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. Thank you for listening.